All right, everyone, welcome. Chris Petri here. We're going to have another great tutorial. We're going to actually cover water and paint ratios with your watercolor brush. This is something that gets overlooked all the time in watercolor, and I want to make sure that everyone here on my channel, all of you that are out there, and if this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming by. This is something that as a watercolor artist, you have to actually really understand fully and utilize the techniques here and the methods that we're going to show you with the water and paint ratio that you have within your watercolor brush. So this is a sable brush which carries quite a bit of water, and sometimes I always mention I always tell beginners, hey, start out with synthetic brushes, because synthetic brushes hold less water. They don't have as much carrying capacity as far as water goes in the brush hairs itself. So, but many of you might be painting a while and you've purchased some really good brushes. You know, that was my goal when I first started watercolor painting was, hey, let me get some of those really good brushes that I see all the pros using and out there on DVDs and YouTube videos. I was watching all the pros and going, wow, yeah, they're using all these sable brushes. I kept hearing sable brushes. So I got my own, I was excited about it, and I said, hey, I got to get myself some sable brushes too. And I got sable brushes, and I realized, wow, they can be a little bit, difficult in some respects because they hold so much water. Sometimes you go in there and you pick up water in your sable brush, and it's flooded with water. And then if you go into your palette and start working and getting some colors and things like that, you can wind up flooding out your palette with too much water. And you can also have too much water on your brush and your paint as you go to your paper to do your washes. So this is what I'm going to key in on this video, is how you can get really beautiful washes and make sure that you're not overlooking the fact that how much water that's in your brush hairs is really powerful and incredible, and a really important thing to know about and to exploit as a watercolor artist. You want to make sure you totally understand that one of the keys to great looking watercolor paintings is being able to control the water that's in your brush hairs so that you don't flood out your washes on your paper. And I'll show you exactly what I mean right now. So let's start out. Let's make a couple, maybe one swatch here. So I'll just take a swatch like this, just a small rectangle here we'll make, and that'll be our first swatch. And what we'll do is we'll kind of show what not to do. So we're going to say, let's pretend I'm showing you what not to do. So what not to do would be go in, get your brush, rinse off your brush, and then you put your brush in the water like this, and then you go straight in to your palette like this, and you go to your palette like this, and you do this onto your paper like this. And then you say, okay, I'm going to do another wash. I'm going to go in, rinse off my brush, gets plenty of water. You know, I'm rinsing off my brush here. And this happens to be a number 6 Raphael sable brush, round brush. Then I go, oh, you know what? I'm going to go in and get some more. I'm going to get some brown. Okay, I like these two colors a lot. I really enjoy earth colors, browns, golds, umbers. But let's look at this right now and say, wow, we've flooded a lot of water on the paper. Now, if we constantly paint like this, where we're going in, rinsing off the brush, and then going right into first of all, what we're doing is we're flooding out the palette. Can you see how I'm flooding out this section of my palette, and over here too in the brown, there's really large puddles of water. We don't want to do that so much. We want to kind of avoid this. So how you avoid this type of situation is first of all, let me just do a quick, let me lift up so I'm going to take some paper towel and just fold up some paper towel like this, and I'm just going to lift out the water that I flooded my palette out with. All right, so I've just cleaned up all the water out of that paint well there, and I'll do the same thing over here. I'll clean up some of that water that was flooded in my palette because I wasn't really understanding that this is a key to watercolor painting, making sure that I keep a track of how much water is in my brush. So that's where we're going to do now. We're going to show you how you can use a sponge. You can use some paper towels. I like to use tissues. I hold a tissue usually in my hand all the time when I paint. So even if I'm holding my palette in my hand, so let's say I had this palette right here and I had it in my hand, I would have the tissue also in my hand at the same time, and then I could take some water from my water container and dry off a little bit of water onto the tissue first and then go in and get some paint. So let's try this out. So as a watercolor artist, you absolutely have to focus in on, if you want rich, vibrant, exciting color on your watercolor paper, let's do another swatch here. Okay, like this. Okay, it's important. You need to make light washes once in a while, but you have to know how to control the water in your brush. Again, rinse off your brush. Now we're going to make the change. Now we're going to show the right way to do this. Go in, get the water, rinse your brush off, tap off the water, some of the water, not all of it, but some of it onto a sponge, or you rinse off your brush and you tap a little bit of water off on a paper towel or a tissue. Rinse off your brush, go first to the tissue, dry off a little bit of the water off the brush hairs, or rinse off your brush, go to the sponge, dry off a little bit of the water, check off, we always say check off some water, check off some water on your sponge, or check off some water on your paper towels here. Then we go in and we pick up some paint. And then you can see look how rich and vibrant that color is. So we have to, as watercolor artists, we have to be able to get that rich, beautiful, straight, juicy paint right onto the paper like this when we need to. Yeah, there are some times when you need to make a light wash like this, maybe a really light looking sky wash, but we also have to know as a watercolor artist, how do we get this really beautiful, exciting, let's say this is the cerulean blue, how do we get that cerulean blue looking that great, that, exciting? Simple. We rinse off our brush. While we're painting, we check off water first onto our sponge or our paper towel. Then we go into our palette, pick up our paint. Let's pick up another color. Let's pick up brown. Another awesome earth color. Look how good that looks. Sky wash. Maybe some earth colors, some brown earth colors underneath the sky wash. Can you see that? How rich and beautiful that looks. Again, there's a place for lighter washes when you're working with your watercolors, absolutely. But you have to be able to create this too as well, because sometimes you're going to need these really vibrant colors in your watercolors when you're looking at your subject matter and you say, I got to really have a beautiful, almost like a rich, exciting blue. Well, you have to know how to do that, and that's how we do it. Rinse off our brush. Let's do maybe a different color. Let's go purple. rinse off our brush. Let's see again how not to do this. Let's go rinse off our brush. We forget about it and we don't go over here and we just go right into the purple and we say, okay, let's get some purple here. Ooh, well, that could look good in some situations, but how do we control it a little more? How do we need to control our washes. Let's do it. Rinse off our brush, check off our water on a paper towel, a sponge, a tissue. Then we go in and we get a beautiful purple like this. Does that look great or what? Yes, again, we do want to create some light washes once in a while. That's for sure. But we also have to remember we need to be able to create this effect, which is the darker tonal values using really pure pigment when we're painting. So that's the key to this video is, as watercolor artists, we must be able to get both the lighter washes and the rich, exciting washes, the exciting colors onto our paintings like this. And the way we do that, of course, is we rinse the brush off and then we check the water off first. Then we go to our palette. Let's do it another little bit here. Let's go, we'll get some burnt sienna, like that. Does that not look good? That looks fantastic. All right, let's do it one more time here. Okay, rinse off the brush, then we go to the sponge, or we rinse off the brush and we go to the paper towel, or we rinse off the brush and we go to the tissue. We take some of the water, we check off some of that water, then we go to our palette. Maybe I'll go over here and get some cadmium red. Doesn't that look great? Wow, that looks great. Okay, then we rinse off our brush again. Maybe we'll do some green. Let's get a chromium of oxide green. Let's practice a little more here. Rinse off brush, check off some of the water. Let's pick up some cadmium yellow. Some of these colors, I guess, are, well, yeah, they're on the camera, actually. All right, so yeah, you can see my palette. You can see the colors I'm using. And again, the whole reason I'm creating this video is when I first started watercolor, I fell into the same issue all the time. When I was painting for years, I painted and I didn't know the importance of being able to rinse brush, check off water, so that I only have a damp brush and then go in and grab my paint and get these gorgeous washes on here. Because if you want to do any type of, let's say you want to do a flower. Let's say we're going to do a flower. And we're going to say, let's make it a red, a alizarin crimson. If we're going to do a flower, you know, it's much better to get that beautiful exciting color on there. Versus if we just go in and get our brush, we rinse our brush, Okay, can you see the difference of that? Yes, sometimes you're going to want to make we'll want to dry off our brush hairs with a tissue, or again, and then we can make some lighter washes like that. Maybe it's a little lighter up on top of the flower shape here that we're doing. But if we don't check off the water, all of our flowers and all of our subject matter that we're painting is going to wind up looking very light and faded looking and washed out like this and like this. You can kind of see that, how this looks very light, washed out looking. Again, you can always, there's a place all of the time in all of our watercolor paintings, yeah, we want some light washes here and there. Depends on what you're painting. So you have to look at your painting and look at your subject matter and say, oh yeah, does that make sense? You look at your subject matter and you go, oh yeah, there's some light washes, but we also have to realize that there's going to be some really rich, exciting washes that we're going to need to create like this. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you really use that, key in on that idea of water and paint ratio on your brush hairs. And again, that the way you get these rich, vibrant colors anytime you want to is simple as this. Rinse the brush, take off and check off some water either on, again, sponge, tissue, paper towels. I use my apron. Sometimes I rinse off my brush and I come over here and I tap it on my apron on my chest like this. And then I go over here and then I'm ready, and then I can say, okay, what am I going to do next? Okay, let's make a yellow flower. And there we have it. All right, I hope this is helpful. I hope you really enjoyed this video, this tutorial. And I always say, hey, if you enjoy my videos, and if this is your first time, again, welcome. But I always say subscribe on the right-hand side below. There's a subscribe button on the right-hand side below. Subscribe, all that does is you'll be alerted that the next time I create a video, you'll see it in your YouTube channel when you open up YouTube the next time. This way you don't lose track of me. And please keep coming back here, work with us. Work with us here week after week, month after month, and year after year. You will get better at your watercolors no matter what. It'll absolutely be just a given that you're going to get better at watercolors by sticking with my channel, because I cover the basics over and over and over again all the time, but I also mix in a lot of other interesting things at the same time. So we're not just going to cover basics. We're going to do all of the paintings, boats, flowers, landscapes, seascapes, figure painting. We do everything watercolor here on my channel, but I always make sure that I'm always giving you in subtle ways or overt ways like this, where I come right out and show you the techniques that I'm using, the methods that I'm using, so that you can use these and it'll take your watercolor to the next level. So I'm glad you're here. I know you're going to take this video, practice it, learn it, and it'll just increase your success with your watercolors tremendously, okay? So I'll see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video, okay? All right, bye-bye for now.